All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Thursday, March 24th, and I'm making my last video before I leave. This one is going to be on reading. Now, since we're kind of in the middle between, we've just finished up the Reading M construct meaning, and after spring break, we're going to be starting a new packet for Reading D, construct meaning. I wanted to go ahead and take a look and review some of the things that we covered inside the M level on construct meaning. So some of those things would be like main idea, details, cause and effect, compare and contrast, summary and paraphrasing. We talked a little bit about inferences before. So I'm going to be covering the first 6 lessons in the high set reading book, M level. Okay, so I brought that link up to the current packets so that way you can take a look at it. All right, that is the only packet that I did not make up at Northview. Everything else is up there if you want to grab it. Again, I would highly recommend grabbing at least that math packet because it's very, very thick, and everything is up there right now. Okay, and Northview will be open next week. And then after that, they'll be closed for spring break. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's take a look at the High Set Reading M book. All right, so the first lesson is on determining word meaning. This may not exactly have to do with our construct meaning, but it does have a lot of good details in here that we need to know, especially these top definitions. So it says here that as you read, you may come across unfamiliar words. You may be able to find context clues. And what that means is context clues is nearby words, phrases, or sentences that are going to help you determine what unfamiliar words mean. All right. There will be probably about maybe a third of the time, a quarter of the time, where they will actually give you the definition. They could have the word and they could have a comma after that word, and then they could have the definition right after it. And then, of course, another comma, and then they pick back up. Sometimes they will actually give you the definition of that word in the next sentence. If that is not true, then read that sentence with that word in it. And if it doesn't help, read the other sentences around it. Usually we can kind of get an idea of what that word means just by doing that and finding our context clues. So here are some of the following types of context clues. All right. The first one, we've talked about inferences. Okay. Now, an inference is a clue that's before, after, or within the sentence. So an inference, I'm going to also bring up an additional definition of that, because I know we've had different sources with that word in there. Okay, so it says it's of course, the process of inferring. All right, something that's inferred. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the word infer means. All right, to derive by reasoning, conclude, or judge from the evidence. Okay, so to indicate or involve as a conclusion or something to lead to. And it says to guess, speculate, imply, suggest, or hint. So this right here is you're taking all the facts that you're reading, okay, and also your past knowledge, prior knowledge, okay, of maybe anything that you might know about the situation, and you're putting that together and it's an educated guess. Okay. All right. So we also are going to be looking at something called same meaning. Same meaning. So what that means is words that have a similar meaning. So a word for that, they don't even put down here, is synonym, a synonym. So if I say it is a bright day outside, instead of saying bright, I can say sunny. I can also use, it's stretching it a little bit, but I might be able to say beautiful. All right. It's a glaring day outside. Okay. It's a, any of those kind of words. And in fact, let's look up insideyourdictionary.com. What I love about this is they also have the thesaurus. So right beside at the very top, it's kind of orangey, okay, looking. You'll click on thesaurus and let's see what they have for synonyms for the word bright. Blazing, brilliant, dazzling, okay, shimmering, shiny, sparkling, again, sunny, okay, golden, luminous would be a good word. Now, not all of these words would fit in to that sentence. Okay, so you just have to try that word. Okay, so I said, it is a bright day outside. Okay, it is a shimmering day. It is a shiny day. It's a sunny day. So again, it all depends because some of these words have different meanings just because they're spelled the same way. All right. So if you go down, you might find also they may have antonyms, which is something we're getting ready to talk about. Okay. And so let's take a look. The opposite meaning, words that have the opposite meaning. So those would be called antonyms. Antonyms. So A-N-T, just like an ant. O-N, YMS, and antonyms. Okay, so that means the opposite of the meaning of bright. So some of the words might be cloudy, dark, dim, dull, gloomy. So, we all like a bright, nice, sunny day, right? But I don't particularly like a gloomy day. You might say depressing, dreary, dusky, murky, pale, possibly. All right, so there's some good choices right there. So synonyms and antonyms, and we'll be talking about them in another section. Okay, let's see. Then we need to go to definitions. And of course, most of all of you know what a definition is, right? It's a statement that gives a word's meaning. All right, so I just looked up definitions, okay? And then we're gonna look in the near future at word parts. Now, some of those word parts would include roots, suffixes, prefixes, and what those three things do is they help you identify a word's meaning, okay? So let's say, for instance, we have the word familiar, okay? And so, hey, that person looks really familiar, like someone I would know, someone that I recognize. Now, that would be your root word. All right, so a prefix is going to be something you would add on to the beginning of a root word. All right, so you could say unfamiliar. Okay, unfamiliar. And then a suffix is going to be something that you would put on the end of a word. Right now, I can't seem to think of anything right off the top of my head, but it would be something that you would put at the ending. Okay. And then we have examples. Now we are studying right now about main ideas and details. So some details, of course, would be examples, statistics. Let's see, we mentioned a lot more Okay, so that's just to name a few statistics, examples, and we'll look more into that. Okay, so examples help you identify what the word means. So they could say it, say the word, and then they could say, for example, and it may not be a clear definition, but they may say it in a different way. Okay. All right. So here is an example. Many people admire sports stars. However, more and more star athletes do not act in admirable ways. Improper conduct has become more prevalent in star athletes. It has also become more common in our children. So the two words, of course, that are underlined is admirable, okay, and then prevalent. All right. So if we're looking for a definition or to know what admirable means, I could read the sentence again. More and more star athletes do not act admirable. So we're saying something about that athletes are not doing something, and it doesn't sound, something that sounds very nice. All right. So they're not doing something. All right. Let's take a look at this word admirable. Okay. I'm going to make it a much bigger so you can see it. What we can do is we could break this word down a little bit. Now look at that. Now it's leaving off one letter, of course, but admire. So if you think about what admire means, all right, someone that looks up to a person, all right, and then let's go ahead and look at the definition for admire. Okay, so admire is to regard with wonder, pleasure, or approval. All right, to regard with wonder or surprise. So when you admire someone, it sounds like someone that you would like. Okay, you look up to. You might admire your older sibling when you're young. Okay, you might admire a sports star. Okay, because they're on TV. Maybe they're really tall. Maybe they're really fit. And it's someone that maybe you would like to be. Okay, possibly. Or you're like, hey, they can do this, and I can't do this, but I really admire that person. All right. So that's the definition to admire. And then the word prevalent. The word prevalent. Let's see. So going back to admire, though, it says they do not act in admirable ways. So we're talking about someone that is not being admired. So that means something about those star athletes are doing something that would make you not want to admire them. Okay. And then the word prevalent. The word prevalent says improper conduct has become more prevalent in star athletes. Now, here's the thing is that this is giving you a clue right here for a reason that you would not admire someone. Improper conduct. Okay, so we have proper and improper. So proper is the way you should do something. Improper is the way you shouldn't do something. Okay, and then your conduct is how you act. Okay, or maybe your attitude or your personality and the way it comes out. Okay, so improper conduct has become more prevalent in star athletes. So we're talking about something that is more of something. All right. And it says it has become also more common in our children. So let's take a look down here what it says about same meanings. The word prevalent and common have nearly the same meaning. So there you go. They're repeating another example for prevalent down here in the very next sentence. All right. So use the word common in place of prevalent in the sentence, and let's see if it works. Okay. Improper conduct has become more common in star athletes. So now that makes sense, right? Okay. Now for opposite meanings. So the words improper and admirable have opposite meanings. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So improper, and yes, right above there, I said improper conduct, and I pointed it to admirable. All right, they have opposite meanings. But here's the thing, they said they do not act admirable. So if you would add that in there, they do not act admirable, that would mean that it's improper. But if you're just taking the word admirable and improper, it would mean that it's opposite, and that would be more like an antonym. Okay, so if we were to take that sentence, okay, the word improper, and we change it to, let's say, proper, and we read that over with, more and more star athletes do not act in proper ways, it would make sense. Okay. All right. Right here, it says over here to the right, a strategy. Be sure to read the entire paragraph or passage. Then look for keywords or phrases to help you determine the meaning of an unfamiliar word. Now, there are students that they don't do their very best on reading test and maybe some other tests. And sometimes the reason why is you rush too much. You want to get through the test that you don't realize that you're actually kind of pushing the limit and you're reading too fast. And, you kind of have to find that time that's just right. Don't take too long, but then again, don't rush it too much either. If you are taking, let's say, a 50-minute reading part 1 test, okay, and a good amount of time would be 40 to 50 minutes to get that done. If you're taking 25, 30 minutes to do it, that's way too fast. Now, if spend some of that extra time. If you do finish early, try to spend some extra time looking back through it and reading those paragraphs a little bit slower, and then make sure that your answer is correct. Okay. I'm not saying go back and always change your answer. Just make sure that you take some more time to go back and read these paragraphs more thoroughly. All right. So let's take a look at this first test example. All right, it says here, what does the word introspection mean? All right, so we're going to read the paragraph, and it says, how can we encourage children to practice good sportsmanship? We must begin with some introspection. We must ask ourselves what we expect our children to learn and gain by playing sports. So again, what does the word introspection mean? So does it mean A, reviewing one's own thoughts, B, considering others' opinions, C, making decisions, or D, daydreaming? So some of these definitions, you can actually put some of those words in place of introspection. So let's try daydreaming. All right. Let's try to put that in there in place of introspection. And we must begin with some daydreaming. We must ask ourselves what we expect our children to learn. That doesn't sound quite right. Daydreaming. All right, let's go back and let's look at C, making decisions. How can we encourage children to practice good sportsmanship? We must begin with making decisions. We must ask ourselves what we expect our children to learn and gain by playing sports. That still does not sound right, is making decisions. All right, so take a moment and think about this introspection. And remember, I said sometimes in the next sentence, there could be some hints, maybe some words in there that might help you figure out what introspection means. All right, so we must begin with some introspection. We must ask ourselves what we expect our children to learn and gain by playing sports. So ask ourselves is very much tied to introspection. All right. So we can actually, let's try to put that inside that sentence. We must begin with asking ourselves, okay, what we expect, and then kind of go on what we expect our children to learn. All right. So which one of these definitions between A and B would be asking ourselves? And that would be A, reviewing one's own thoughts. So introspection. Okay. Let's go and try the next page here. Now, we've got a nice big paragraph here, and it says at the top, Lou Gray wants to apply for a mortgage online. First, Lou reads the instructions. Okay, so before you begin, you will enter your private information on the application form. We then enter your data into a uniform mortgage application form. This form is Fannie Mae form number 1003, which is a standard form used for mortgages. First, identify the type of loan you want. Do you want to refinance the current mortgage on your home? Do you want to purchase an existing home? Do you want to construct a new home? So those are typically, three really good questions that a lot of loan officers will ask you at a bank or a business. Refinancing the current mortgage. And of course, since that's not one of the questions, refinancing is when you want to maybe get a lower rate. You're not moving, but let's say you have a rate of maybe 9%, okay? And there's a better percentage rate out there. And maybe the rates are really good right now and you could get a 5% interest rate. That would save you a lot of money, all right? So some people could refinance their home, and basically it means you're basically almost like buying back your home. Okay, you're going through a lot of the paperwork, and they're going to come out and they're going to look at your house and see how much it's worth. Has it went up in value? Okay, some people refinance their home to maybe get extra money that they need to get some major appliances fixed or something like that. Maybe they don't have the money on their hands and they refinance their home for that reason. All right, or they could purchase an existing home. Let's see. I don't want to say anything about that right there because there is a question for that one, okay? Next, the form asks your permission for us to check your credit. Your credit score helps us to determine how risky it is for us to lend you money, okay? Then record the value of the property you want to purchase. Also indicate the occupancy type of the property. Will it be your primary residence? Is it going to be an investment property? Will it be a vacation home? All right, primary residence, let's see. That is where you live most of the time. Okay, primary residence. Investment property, that might mean, are you going to make it into a rental property? Are you going to maybe make this into a business property where you hold your own business, right? All right, fill in the amount of the loan that you are requesting. Also provide information about bank accounts and investments. Last, input your gross monthly income before deductions. After an initial review of your information, our staff will find a lender to meet your needs. We will send your application form to that lender. The lender will handle the final review of your application form. Then the lender will generate the official 1003 form. When you receive this form, please review your information. Finally, sign the form. All right, so if you notice something here, I just kind of noticed this right just now. This started out with first, and it ended with finally. All right. I did see, well, and then here is last. Okay, so this is something that's in a step. Okay, steps. Here's the word then. And here's the word next. So it's going first, next, then, last, and then at the very end, they said finally. You know what? That's kind of like a chronological. Okay, that is more like coming in a sequence of events. Okay, and these would be key words right here to keep you straight of the process of what's happening. All right, so let's go to our questions. And number one, read the sentence. We then enter your data onto a uniform mortgage application form. Which of these has the same meaning as uniform as it is used in the sentence? All right, so what you can do again is you can place each of these words in that sentence to see if it sounds good, if it makes sense. All right, so go ahead and pause your screen and look for an answer. Okay, so let's try decorate. We then enter your data onto let's see, we then enter your data and decorate mortgage application. That sounds not right, okay? A lot of times, you know, when you hear the word uniform, you might think of something someone wears, maybe a team uniform or a school uniform or a job uniform, okay? But this has a different meaning, something that is uniform, all right? So your answer to number one is going to be B. It's going to be a standard, okay? So we then enter your data onto a standard mortgage application form. So that does sound exactly right. And the meaning for uniform is standard, all right? And where it actually says up here, it actually does say the word standard. Let's see. All right, so we're looking for the word uniform. All right, so let's see what. Aha. Of course, it's at the very first paragraph, right? You will enter your private information on the application form. We then enter your data into a uniform mortgage application. Take a look at the next sentence after that. And it says this form is Fannie Mae form, which is the standard form used for mortgages. So if you go back to the reading, you would, look at that sentence that the word is in, maybe look at the sentence after. Okay. All right, let's go to number 2. It says, read the sentence. Then the leader, then the lender will generate the official 1003 form. Which of these has the same meaning, a synonym, as generate, as it is used in the sentence? So generate. Right, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can take a look above to where the word generate is. And it's in the last paragraph. The lender will handle the final review of your application form. Then the lender will generate the official form. All right. When you receive this form, please review it and then sign the form. So generate. Your answer to number 2 should be create. It should be letter C. All right. And it says that the next 2 sentences explain that Lou is going to review and sign the form. So the lender must generate or create the form before Lou can sign it. All right. Let's look at number 3. Do you want to purchase an existing home? So, what is the meaning of existing as it is used in the sentence? A, being built. B, already built. C, yet to be built. Or D, owned by you. So, go ahead and pause your screen and think about what existing means. All right. So if we look back at the reading where it talks about, do you want to purchase an existing home? We also mentioned, here it is right here. Do you want to construct a new home? So we know that existing does not mean a new home, constructing a new home. We know that that's not it, because otherwise, why would they ask you right after that if you want to construct a new home? So it doesn't mean to construct a new home. All right. And it does not does not mean refinancing your current mortgage, because here's the question for that one. Let's go back down. And your best answer to this would be B, already built. So if something exists, it's already here, right? So B would be the correct answer. Number 4, read the sentence. Last, input your gross monthly income before deductions. Which of these provides a context clue for the meaning of gross? Take a moment and pause your screen if you need to. Okay, so Hang on just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. I think my screen was a little messed up, so I wanted to make sure that it worked. All right, so right here in number 4, it says your gross monthly income, and then it actually does give you the definition right here, or a good indication of what that means. So your answer to this would be D. So if you think about what your gross monthly income is, it's going to be before they take out any kind of Medicare or medical or dental or taxes. So it's before the deductions. Okay, let's go to the next lesson. It says here, lesson 2, determining the main idea and summarizing text. The main idea is the most important idea in a paragraph or a longer text. It is what the writer would like you to remember later. So the main idea is supported by details. Now, details give more information about the main idea. So details are going to be just as important as the main idea. Okay, so main idea, most important idea in a paragraph or a longer text. Okay, so in a paragraph, the main idea may be stated directly in a topic sentence, but in a longer text, the main idea is often stated directly in what we call a thesis statement. Okay, so there's always going to be the time where the main idea is stated, okay, where you actually physically see that one kind of Goldilocks perfect sentence, okay, and that one sentence wraps up everything that you need to know about what you're going to read inside of that paragraph. Or, of course, your main idea may be even at the end of the paragraph. And of course, it's going to wrap up into one nice sentence what you read. Okay. There's always the times where it may not be stated. Okay. And we'll look at that also. Now, when you summarize a paragraph or a longer text, you tell about the main idea and key supporting details. Now, I want to say that your summarizing or your summary, remember, it is in your own words. It's important that they did not mention that in here. It is always in your own words, okay? It includes the main idea, and you probably want to put maybe one important detail in there. It just depends on how long this text is. If it's a paragraph, you may just want to go ahead and state the main idea in your own words or add maybe one detail. If it's a longer text, then of course, you're probably going to have maybe a short little paragraph or maybe a paragraph. Okay. So let's take a look at an example here. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. When it starts to get cold, millions of them fly south. They fly from the northeastern United States and Canada to Mexico. Some fly as far as 3,000 miles. In the spring, they fly back north. All right. So the main idea for this paragraph, it says the main idea of this paragraph is stated directly in the first sentence. One thing that you probably already know or should know is that a big majority of the time, your stated main idea will be in the first sentence. There's a good amount of time where I usually say about 70% of the time, it is the first sentence for a stated main idea. So in this particular situation, here is your main idea. Monarch butterflies make a two-way migration. So if you think about two-way, and you think about the word migration. So migrate. All right. So these butterflies are going somewhere and then they're returning and they're coming back. So now you're like, okay, I have an idea what the paragraph's going to be about. And then the rest of it could be details and information about what that main idea is speaking of. All right. So the other sentences in the paragraph are going to provide details about the migration. So maybe when they migrate, how many of them migrate, how far they travel, and where are they going? You know, it mentioned that they're going from the northeastern part of the United States and Canada, and they are flying to Mexico. So that's telling where they are going. So the summary below identifies the main idea and includes important details. So let's take a look at it. So the summary and the main idea are slightly different, okay? The main idea is one good sentence. A summary is one really good sentence restating the main idea in your own words, but it can be a little longer, all right? So here's the good summary for here. Millions of monarch butterflies migrate south in the winter and north in the spring. So they put that in their very own words, okay? And it basically wraps up what that paragraph is talking about. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this paragraph below here. All right, I'll lift this up here. It says in the paragraph, scientists keep track of the monarchs during the trip south. They note when monarchs begin to fly south, they record where adult monarchs are spotted as they travel to Mexico. Scientists collect some of this data themselves, but they depend on others to help. People help by reporting sightings of monarchs. So the question is, what is the main idea of this paragraph? Is it A, scientists note when monarchs begin to fly south? B, scientists track where adult monarchs are spotted? C, scientists keep track of the monarchs? Or is it D, scientists depend on others to help track monarchs? Pause your screen and reread that paragraph again in your answers. All right, so your answer to number one is actually going to be C. Scientists keep track of the monarchs. And if you noticed in that first sentence right here, scientists keep track of the monarchs during the trip south. All right, so your main idea is in the first sentence of that paragraph. So C is your answer. Okay, let's go on. All right, so here's a nice big reading. Let's see. First off, I'm going to give you a moment to read this on your own. So I need you to pause your screen. Whoops. Pause your screen and take a moment and reread this if you have to keep rereading it, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read it again. Today, there is a lot of buzz about electric cars. It seems they are the latest fad. But the electric car is not a new idea. Electric cars were developed in the late 1800s. In the early 1900s, they became popular in the United States. In fact, electric cars outsold other types of cars in 1900. Electric cars were more popular than gasoline cars in the early 1900s for a few reasons. Electric cars were easy to start and drive. They were clean and they were quiet. On the other hand, early gasoline cars were loud, dirty, and hard to drive. Drivers had to hand crank them to start the engine. Drivers also had to change gears while driving. By the 1920s, the number of electric cars started to decline. By 1935, there were very few on the road. There were several reasons for this. First, electric cars could not travel far. They could only go about 18 miles. As roads got better, people wanted to take longer road trips. Second, electric starters made gasoline cars easier to start. They no longer had to be hand cranked. Third, Henry Ford began mass producing gasoline cars. So the price of gasoline cars dropped. Last, gasoline was cheap and easy to get. So today, electric cars are making a comeback. Many car companies make hybrid or all electric cars. In fact, there were more than 20 2018 models of electric cars for sale in the United States. Okay, so let's take a look at our questions below. Number 1, what is the main idea of the first paragraph? Would it be A, today there is a lot of buzz about electric cars? B, the electric car is not a new idea. C, electric cars were developed in the late 1800s. D, electric cars were popular in the 1900s. So we're looking for the main idea of the first paragraph. So go ahead and take a moment, pause your screen, and look for that main idea. Okay, so going back to number 1, your answer is going to be B. The electric car is not a new idea. Okay, now that is not necessarily, of course, in the first sentence, but right, there's 30% of the other time where it can be the last sentence of the paragraph, or it could be in the middle of the paragraph. So this would end up being the third sentence of the paragraph. Electric cars were developed. Let's see. The electric car is not a new idea. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, the third sentence is the electric car is not a new idea. So right there. Okay. Number 2, what is the main idea of the second paragraph? Is it A, early gasoline cars were loud, dirty, and hard to drive? B, drivers had to hand crank gasoline cars to start them. C, gasoline cars were hard to drive because drivers had to change gears while driving. Or D, there are several reasons electric cars were more popular than gasoline cars in the 1900s. So you're going to take a look at the second paragraph. All right, pause your screen. Okay, now go back down and take a look at your answers. Go ahead and pause your screen. All right, so your answer to number 2 would be D. There are several reasons electric cars were more popular than gasoline cars in the 1900s. Now, if we go back and look at the second paragraph, you're going to notice that that is the first sentence of paragraph number 2. All right. The rest of that paragraph is giving you examples and reasons. Okay. Number 3, which is the best summary of the whole passage? Is it A, electric cars were popular in the early 1900s. They started to decline when gasoline cars became more affordable. B, early electric cars were clean, quiet, and easy to drive. They could travel about 18 miles. Today, many car companies make hybrid or all electric cars. C, electric cars are not a new idea. First developed in the 1800s, they were popular in the early 1900s. In the 1920s, they started to decline. Today, electric cars are making a comeback. Or is it D, electric cars outsold other types of cars in the 1900s? Early gasoline cars were dirty, loud, and hard to drive. Early electric cars did not go far, but they were clean, quiet, and easy to drive. So I want you to pause your screen and take a moment or two and find the best summary. Okay, so the best summary for this passage above would be C. Okay, and that is because it's taking the main ideas from all the paragraphs. So, like we said, the main idea, paragraph number 1, was B, the electric car is not a new idea. For paragraph 2, it's D, there's several reasons electric cars were more popular. So if we take C and we look at the overall passage and take the main ideas of all the passages and put them together, C would be your correct choice. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next page. Lesson 3. All right, so identify supporting details. So we just looked at the main idea, and now we're going to look and see, what does supporting details look like? What are they about? Okay, so details and examples support the main idea in a paragraph or longer text. So the writer uses details to help you understand the main idea. And there are several types of supporting details. So this is what I was trying to think of earlier when I was saying examples, statistics, and I kind of stopped right there. All right. So here are the different words we're going to be looking at. Examples, right? So sometimes people will make a comment and they'll say, for example, or someone will say, can you give me an example so I can understand a little bit better? Okay. Facts. So sometimes facts could include even some numbers. Okay. More often, statistics would be about numbers, though. Like if you want to say 80% of all, let's see, high school students want to dress in their own clothing. Okay. Or 80% of high schoolers do not want to have a school uniform, something like that. Okay. So statistics, all about numbers. Now, opinions. Remember, we talked about opinions. Well, opinions and facts. So a fact would be something that's true and proven. An opinion would be something about how you feel about something. It's your own opinion, or you might be reading about someone else's opinion. All right. And then explanations. When they explain something, they might explain it in the next sentence to make it more clear. And then descriptions, all about describing. So they might have something to do with visual, auditory, touch, smell. All right. You could have colors mentioned. Okay. All about descriptions. Okay. Let's take a look at this next paragraph. It says the common cold is a bigger burden on our economy than most people think. What does it cost you to be sick? If you stay home from work, you may not get paid. If you visit the doctor, you may have to pay for the doctor visit and any tests that are ran. You may also have to buy over-the-counter or prescription drugs to treat symptoms. So the main idea in this paragraph is going to be stated in the first sentence. So the common cold is a bigger burden on our economy than most people think. So when I read that main idea, I'm thinking, okay, common cold, I've had a cold before. It's a big burden. Well, I don't feel well when I have a cold. And yeah, when I think about having a cold, I'm trying to, fix the problem myself, because a burden on me might be, you know what, I don't want to have to take off of work. Now I have children to have to figure out, should I send them to school? Are they going to get sick? And then also, I have to make a doctor's appointment. Can I get into the doctor's today? I'm going to have to come up with the money to even pay the copay or the whole doctor's bill. So that is a burden on us, right? And then we have to turn around and we possibly have to go to the drugstore or the pharmacy to get medications. And then, of course, that might be more cost depending on if you have health insurance. Okay. Now, some supporting details right here. The supporting details describe what it costs you to be sick. So there are actually 3 details that they are listing. Okay. The first one is loss of pay, right? There's one. The cost of the doctor's visit. And then, of course, the cost of the medicine. So those are 3 details that they've easily listed. All right. Okay. Going on down here. So here is another paragraph that we're going to read about the common cold again. And then we'll answer the question below. Researchers say that the common cold cost businesses in the United States about $25 billion a year. Most of that cost is due to a loss of productivity. When sick people go to work, they do not get as much work done. And the work they do is often not as good. The rest of the cost is due to missed days. People miss work because they or their children are sick. So question number 1 is, which supporting detail would best fit into this paragraph? All right. So would it be A, missed work days cost about $8.2 billion? B, Americans catch about 500 million common colds a year? C, doctor's visits for the common cold cost about $7.7 billion a year? Or would it be D, Americans spend about $3 billion a year on over-the-counter medication? All right, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can read all of it. Pause your screen, reread it if you need to, and then choose your answer. All right, so the answer to this question would be A. Missed workdays cost about $8.2 million. Now, that would best fit into this paragraph because it's talking about related costs to businesses, okay? So it would nicely fit in there, all right? It's a statistic, so it's just some extra information that could come in handy on understanding this paragraph and the common cold and what it's costing the whole United States as a country. All right. Next page, we got a longer reading here. I want you to go ahead and take a moment and read this whole page right here. And pause your screen, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and reread this with you. Have you ever touched a plant in a park or in someone's yard and then had blisters and itching the next day? You may have touched poison ivy or poison oak. Those are two poisonous wild plants found in gardens, yards, and parks. There are many other types of dangerous plants and fungi that can be found in everyday places. The datura, also known as Jimson weed or thorn apple, is another type of dangerous plant. Any part of the datura can be poisonous if it is crushed. The poison affects eyesight. It can cause difficulty breathing and an irregular heartbeat. Ingesting large amounts of datura can cause unconsciousness and even death. Some wild mushrooms are also poisonous. Eating wild mushrooms is a common type of poisoning. It is hard to tell harmless mushrooms from poisonous ones since they often look alike. For that reason, people should eat only mushrooms bought in stores. Do not eat mushrooms that grow in yards, gardens, or parks. Poisonous mushrooms can cause violent illness and even death. Even some houseplants are dangerous. Be sure that young children and pets do not eat the leaves of houseplants. They may be poisonous. The following common houseplants have poisonous leaves. Okay, so the philodendrons, the hyacinths, peace lilies, and poinsettias. Plants and fungi may lack claw and fangs, yet some are irritating, dangerous, and even deadly. Avoid risk by finding out more about poisonous plants and fungi that may be around you. All right, so if you need to pause again and reread it, that's fine. Okay, so let's go down to your questions. Number 1, which detail supports the main idea of paragraph 2? A, datura is also called Jimson weed or thorn apple. B, datura is another type of poisonous plant. C, datura can be found in everyday places. D, datura can cause unconsciousness and even death. So we're looking for a detail that's supporting the main idea of paragraph 2. I'm going to take you up here so you can reread paragraph 2. And I want you to pause your screen right now to reread it. Okay, so now let's go to number one. I want you to pause your screen and look through your choices. Okay, so your answer to number one is going to be D. Datura can cause unconsciousness and even death. Now, these are examples that show why this Datura is a dangerous plant. All right, number two, which detail best supports the idea that some mushrooms are poisonous? Is it A, people should eat only mushrooms from the store? B, mushrooms grow wild in yards, gardens, and parks? C, harmless mushrooms and poisonous mushrooms look alike? D, people become violently ill or die from eating them. So you want a detail that best supports the idea of wild mushrooms being poisonous. So pause your screen and look through those choices again. All right, so your answer to number two is going to be D. So it's going to be people become violently ill or die from eating them. And the reason why is it states in the paragraph that what can happen when someone eats a poisonous wild mushroom. All right, number three, which main idea does the description below support? Have you ever touched a plant in a park or in someone's yard and then had blisters and itching the next day? Would it be A, dangerous plants such as poison ivy and poison oak can be found in everyday places? B, harmless mushrooms are difficult to tell from poisonous mushrooms since they look alike? C, children and pets might eat the poisonous leaves of houseplants? Or D, the poison of the datura can affect someone's eyesight and heartbeat? Pause your screen and look through the paragraph, the miniature paragraph, and read your answers. All right, so your answer to number three would be A, dangerous plants such as poison ivy and poison oak can be found in everyday places. So it was talking about blisters and itching, describing the effects, right? And so of touching poison ivy and poison oak. So these are types of dangerous plants in everyday places. Like you might actually bring some of these into your home, or they might be in your flower garden outside or right by a fence, something like that. Okay. Number four, which type of poisonous plant can be found inside a home? Is it poison ivy, peace lily, datura, or poison oak? So I'm going to scroll up so you can look through these, the paragraph above. Which type of poisonous plant can be found inside your home? I want you to pause your screen and take a look. All right. So hopefully you looked at paragraph 4, because it does say in paragraph 4, the following common houseplants have poisonous leaves: philodendrons, hyacinths, peace lilies, and poinsettias. So out of the 4 that's mentioned, the only one that actually shows up in the answer is going to be B, the peace lily. All right, lesson 4. So understanding text structure. Writers of informational text can use different text structures. They think about which text structure will best organize their ideas and information. So we're going to take a look at 4 of these right here, and we've already looked at 2 out of the 4 in the last Reading M Construct Meaning packet. All right. Chronological text. All right. So chronological text structure will organize information in a time order or the order in which the events occurred. So someone writing a biography might use a chronological text structure. So look for dates and time order words such as first, then, next, last, finally, secondly, okay? And that should hopefully remind you of an earlier text that we read where I underlined all those key words. And I said, hey, this comes in chronological order. So dates and those key words, okay? Like a recipe may say first, second, next, then, last, or finally, okay? A compare and contrast. Now that would be showing ideas and events, things, or people that are similar and different. So compare and contrast. So someone writing about 2 forms of transportation might use a compare and contrast text structure. So you need to look for some keywords when it comes to, or signal words, when it comes to compare and contrast. All right. So just a few of those words might be both, same, different. You might say, however. All right. If you look back in the packet that we just finished and look up compare and contrast, they do give you a nice selection of keywords to use when you're comparing something. And you might even say in the same way. All right, would be indicating compare. So just like I've said before, if I compare Chris and I could say both Chris and I are women. Okay. And I can say Chris loves pizza. However, Paula does not like pizza. Okay. Which that's not true. Okay. All right. So that's compare and contrast. And that is a very popular paragraph that you could read, or a reading selection text that you could read about. And you need to know the differences between these 4, because most likely you're going to run into a few questions about which paragraph and which of these 4 answers would go with that paragraph. Okay. Now, cause and effect. Now, that text structure explains how one idea or event leads to another idea or event. So someone writing about how and why earthquakes happen, you might use a cause and effect text structure. Okay. So looking for signal words and phrases like cause, effect, as a result of. Okay. So again, so if someone steps out in front of a bus, right, that would be the cause. An effect of that, or as a result of that, a person could break a leg. They may perish and not do so well. All right. Many, many different effects. So you could have one cause, multiple effects. You may have multiple causes for something with one effect. All right. So just like we read about the elephants, okay, people are hunting elephants for their tusk and their ivory. In effect, the elephant population has decreased. We could say that deforestation has contributed to many animals like elephants to lose their home. In effect, an elephants may basically the reproduction rate of elephants would not be so great. The amount of elephants would not be so good. Okay, so that would be cause and effect relationship. And then we have problem and solution. So text structure presents a problem and tells how it has been or could be solved. So someone writing about how scientists overcame obstacles to space flight might use a problem and solution text structure. So for problem and solution, there are also signal words. Of course, they're just giving you three: problem, solution, solve. Okay, so I want you to pause your screen right now and reread about these four different ones and make sure that you're taking some notes as you're doing that. Okay, so let's read the example down here. All right, so for example, a drought is caused by a lack of rain for an extended period. Drought can affect a town or city's water supply. Farmers' crops and people's lawns and gardens might shrivel up and die as a result of this drought. So if you take a look at this particular paragraph, it is going to be one of the above. So chronological text. Well, first off, I don't really see anything like dates. I don't see first, next, last. I don't see any of those keywords. Okay. Compare and contrast. Well, it's talking about the drought, which is a lack of rain. All right. And then it goes into the problems that people experience through this. So that's not really a compare and contrast. But if we look at it from a cause and effect relationship, the cause is the drought, lack of rain. The effect is many. It affects the town's water supply. It affects farmers and their crops. People and their lawns and gardens might shrivel up and die. Okay, so one cause, multiple effects. All right, so this text structure is actually cause and effect organization. And there are clue words and phrases in here, like caused, effect, as a result. And that signals, of course, cause and effect text structure. So let's go on down and compare text structures of multiple text. You can compare the text structures of two or more informational text. You might compare text that have the same topic or are written by the same author. Comparing text structures of multiple text will help you understand how the information of each text is organized and why each writer chose a particular structure to convey an idea. So we're going to be looking at two different, we're going to look at, two different passages here. Okay. Here's your first passage. More and more residents are encountering black bears. The bears not only scare people, but also damage property. Some homeowners have had to spend hundreds of dollars to fix the damage done to their houses by bears. Police and other officials must solve this problem by trapping the bears and taking them to safety. If you want to pause your screen and reread this, go ahead and do that. All right, here is your next passage. Early yesterday morning, a bakery owner walked into her store and found some unexpected company. A large black bear was pawing its way through the tasty treats in the display case. It swiped up cupcakes, slices of pie, and cinnamon rolls. Smart bear. So the bakery owner quickly left the store. Then she called the police and animal control. Bear encounters like this one are occurring more often. They are a result of long, dry winters and growing development. Go ahead and pause your screen if you want to reread this paragraph. All right, so we're going to be talking about compare and contrast here, similarities and their differences. Okay, so the similarities between both passage 1 and 2 are these people are encountering, they're finding encounters between black bears and people, right? So each passage is giving examples of some kind of destruction that has been caused by the bear, right? So if we look for the destruction of passage number 1, well, first off, they're damaging property, right? And then, of course, because of this damaged property, people have to spend more money, okay, to fix these things. And of course, in passage number 2, the bakery owner, of course, she's going to have damage and she has lost some profits that she could have sold that day, or he, let's put it that way. Now, there are differences between both passages. Passage 1 lays out some of the problems that bears caused for people and presents a possible solution. So in the first passage, police and other officials are going to solve the problem by trapping the bears and then taking them to safety. In passage number 2, the lady or the gentleman called the police and animal control so that way they could go ahead and deal with any problem bears. Okay, now primarily passage 2 primarily uses chronological order also, and it's describing what happened at the bakery and then explains the cause of the bear encounters. And of course, those are due to long dry winters and growing development. Okay. All right, let's go on down and take a look at 2 short paragraphs here, passage 1 and passage 2. Go ahead and pause your screen if you need to go ahead and read both paragraphs. All right, passage number 1, Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. A few months later, several southern states seceded. These states left the United States. On April 12, 1861, war broke out between the North and the South. The location was Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Now, in passage 2, it says, U.S. presidents have to make hard decisions. Abraham Lincoln had to make the most difficult decision of all. The country was deeply divided. Some states had left the Union. How could he solve this problem? He believed that leaving the Union was a crime, and he decided to defend federal law and the Union. So question number 1 says, how are these passages different? Okay, so number 1, the passages are completely different topics. Letter B, both passages have a chronological text structure, but they tell about different events in Lincoln's life. C, passage 1 has a compare and contrast text structure, while paragraph 2 has a cause and event text structure. Or D, passage 1 has a chronological text structure, while passage 2 has a problem solution text structure. Go ahead and pause your screen so you can find your correct answer. Okay, so your answer to number 1 should be D. Okay, here's the thing is that A is not correct. These aren't completely different topics. We're talking about President Lincoln. We're talking about the 1860s, around that period of time. And we're talking about how the states are not happy and they're trying to break apart from the Union. Both of those passages say that. Okay, so that's why A is not correct. Let's see. C, passage 2 has a cause and effect text structure. It does not. Okay. For passage 2, it's more of a problem and solution. Okay. Abraham Lincoln, he knows that there is a problem with the Union and the states wanting to break apart. So his solution is to defend federal law and defend the Union. So that is a problem and solution. But if you look at paragraph 1, it's not compare and contrast. This is more about chronological text structure. I see dates, okay? And it says right here, Abraham Lincoln, he was elected president in this year, a few months later. So it may not say necessarily first, next, then last, but it does give you an indication of time order. Okay, 1860, a few months later, this happened. And then on April 12th, 1861, war broke out. Okay, so that is all about chronological order. So D is your best choice. All right, let's go on to the next page. Now for this right here, I want you to go ahead and read this on your own and then go ahead and answer the questions. I'm going to go ahead and skip this because this is going to be your homework. And so what you can do is you can go in and open up this particular high set reading book M. All right. And you can do this page on your own. And this is page 10. All right. Page 10. Let's take a look at the next. Okay. At the very bottom of page 10, we're going to go ahead and read the 2 passages and we'll look at a couple of the questions. Okay. Mortal Kombat is a video game. It caused a big change in the gaming industry. Many people complained that the game was too violent for children to play. As a result, Nintendo removed the blood from the game. Sega added a MA13 symbol to the game to show that it was for mature audiences, MA, over 13. Congress held a hearing about video game violence. As a result of the hearings, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, was created. The ESRB rates video games. The group's task is to look at game content. It also suggests how old players should be to play a game. And so the ratings range from EC, early childhood, to A for adults. All right, go ahead and pause your screen and reread the paragraph. Okay, let's go on to paragraph number 2, a little bit longer. So the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, so that was already mentioned previously, provides users with an easy way to choose video games that are appropriate for different age groups. It gives ratings based on the content of the games. By looking at the ratings from the ESRB, a user can quickly compare the content in different games. So it starts out with EC, early childhood. Now this game is okay for young children. E for everyone. The game is okay for all ages. The game may have mild cartoon violence and mild language in it, though. E, 10 plus, everyone 10 years of age and up. The game may have more cartoon violence and mild language. T for teen is 13 years and up. The game may have some violence, crude humor, some strong language, and some suggestive language. Okay. And then M for mature. That's going to be for 17 years and up. The game may have violence, blood and gore, and strong language. And then, of course, the last one is A for adults only, 18 years and up. The game may have a lot of strong violence and gore, adult content, and a lot of strong language. So when they talk about strong language, of course, they would might be talking about something very sensitive. It may be what we might call cuss words or bad language. Okay, so as the level of violence increases, so does the age level. So games with E, 10 plus, T, M, and A ratings all have violence. So violence in a game rated T is much different than the violence in a game that's rated M. Go ahead and pause your screen and reread this. All right, so we're going to look at a couple of these questions. There's 3 altogether. I just want to go over 2 of the questions. Let's do number 5, part A and part B. What is the text structure of passage A? Is it chronological, compare and contrast, cause and effect, or problem and solution? So back to passage 1, pause your screen and take a look at it. All right, so going back to that question, number 5, your answer is going to be B. It is chronological order. So, oh, I'm sorry. I've got to go back to here. All right. Let's see. I'm sorry. It is C. All right. It is C. It is cause and effect. Now, the writer's going to explain how a violent video game can lead to the creation of the rating board, okay, or the rating system. So cause and effect. So looking back at that. All right, so they were having this problem with the children playing games. So the effect is Nintendo had to go back and fix the problem. And some of the ways that they did that was inventing that rating system. All right, so knowing that part A is cause and effect, part B, which sentence from the passage best supports the answer to part A? A, Mortal Kombat is a video game. B, many people complained the game was too violent for children to play. C, Congress held a hearing about video game violence. Or is it D, as a result of the hearings, the Entertainment Software Rating Board was created? So pause your screen if you need to and choose your answer. All right, your answer to number 5, part B, is going to be D. And this actually indicates a cause and effect relationship like we chose above for part A, okay? Because they give you the cause, right? And then the effect is as a result of these hearings, okay? Then that is the effect, okay? You're gonna go ahead and do number 6 on your own. All right. And we're going to take a look at just the very beginning of lesson 5, because right now it's been at least an hour and 36 minutes. I don't want to make this too long. So let's take a look at understanding sequence. All right, so it says here that sequence is the order in which the writer presents steps or information in a text. Okay, so as you read, look for sequence words and phrases. So this right here has a lot to do with, all right, let's go back to, oops, kind of missed it here. Looking for chronological order, and must have been a little further back than I thought. There we go. We're looking at, when we're talking about sequence, we're looking at, let's see, chronological order, right? We said in chronological order, they either give dates or they use words like next, then, first, things like that. So chronological order is very, very similar to sequence, but let's look and see what they say about sequence. All right, so look for sequence words and phrases such as first, next, after that, then, and finally. So also look for numbers and action words that indicates any steps that will follow. So sequencing will help you recall the important information in a text. So for example, anyone who lives in the city can get a library card. So follow these simple steps. Number 1, fill out the application online. Number 2, go to the library. Number 3, show a photo ID, such as a driver's license or school ID. 4, also show proof of your current address, such as a utility bill or voter registration card. And then number 5, get your card and check out books. All right, so here it says your numbered steps. The writer uses numbers 1 to 5 to show the sequence of steps to take to obtain a library card. So action words such as fill out and go follow each number. So the numbers help readers locate the steps and show the order in which they should be followed. All right, so let's go on down below and let's read this paragraph. To make flower beads, you will need black, yellow, and purple polymer clay. First, roll the black clay into a log for the center of the flower. Next, roll the yellow clay into 5 logs and the purple clay into 5 logs too. Then measure the logs. They should be about 1.5 inches long and 1/4 inch in diameter. After that, flatten the purple logs on 3 sides to make them triangular. The question, what step do you do immediately after you roll the yellow and purple clay into logs? Is it going to be A, you're gathering different colors of the clay? B, roll the black clay into a log for the center of the flower? C, measure the length and diameter of the logs? Or is it D, flatten the purple logs into triangles? Go ahead and pause your screen if you need to. All right, so your correct answer to this would be C. So measure the length and the diameter of the logs. So after rolling the yellow and the purple clays into logs, and we have that right here, it says Then measure the logs. Okay, so that would be why C is the correct answer. Now, let's go ahead and read the test strategy here. Look for numbers, action words, and sequence words and phrases in test questions, as well as in the passage. The phrase immediately after is a key sequence phrase in a test example question. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next reading. I want you to pause your screen and go ahead and read this. All right, so for this right here, I think it's pretty easy reading. Sequence, I find that sequence is pretty easy. I don't think it's too difficult. There are 6 questions altogether. So for homework, I want you to go ahead and do page 13. All right, and we're going to go ahead and stop right there. We have done 5 lessons in this book. Now, I will come back to lesson 6 because it's about cause and effect. Okay, so after spring break, we will be looking at lesson 6. We'll go on and we'll start reading about construct meaning, level D. Okay, but I will come back to this short little section on understanding cause and effect because it is very important. And this is only 2 pages right here. All right, so it won't take us long. If you want to go ahead and do some more homework and reading, making inferences and using text evidence, you know, we talked a lot about inferences. Okay, this would be a really good lesson for you to do on your own. All right, any homework that you do, please make sure that you write it down. You could go ahead and tell Dominic what you did for homework, and or you can wait until make sure that you do tell him the videos that you watched and do the homework that we've covered so far. All right, but as for anything beyond that, you can send me any homework that you do as of spring break, after spring break. Okay, so I will see you this morning in about 45 minutes, and then I will actually see you after spring break. So I hope everyone enjoys their spring break and take care.